Hello, and welcome to our very first ever video contemplation of the year signature.
2025.
Yep, today is day 1 of 2025, and the year signature for 2025 is 45.
Yes.
The year signature for 2024, last year, was 44. This year we transition into the frequency of 45. Now, this frequency corresponds with the Ace of Wands, the wand virtue of story, and the prime instinct to play. It is represented by the Angels of Eloquence and Nobility.
Very exciting. So we have the 23rd Angel of Eloquence, who walks the pathway of simplicity to become the embodiment of heart. And then the 45th Angel of Nobility walks the pathway of ownership to become the embodiment of the king.
That's right. Now, we've got a lot of ground to cover in this conversation because, for starters, we're already seeing a lot of connections that we really intend to bring forward in the conversation, but we also wish to recap 2024 as a part of how we introduce what we see coming in 2025, what we sense as the primary themes of this coming year.
Yeah, it's very necessary to tie the themes together because we're actually meant to move through them in a sequence.
Yes.
And as we've said many times before, it's not cut and dry, one theme ends and another begins. It's very much connected. They're very connected to each other. They build on each other. So everything about last year has created a foundation for us to move into 2025. And everything we learned last year is going to help us be prepared for what we're going to meet in 2025.
Oh, yeah. Very well said. I like that use of the word foundation because it's absolutely connected to what we're seeing here. It's almost like a stage was set in 2024, and we now get to enact a whole new way of being in life in 2025 as a result of the lessons integrated last year.
Yeah, there's so much to learn from 2024 because of the frequency that we met. So this 44 is actually connected to the Angel of Wands, which is a brand new member of the Liberated Tarot that is essentially the essence of the whole suit or the theme. So wands as a suit in the tarot or an overarching theme, we really met everything about that suit of wands last year, and it applies to years previous to that and years going forward. So every time we met a wand, I don't know how many years previous we were still in the wands in the sequence.
Several,
maybe 5 years previous, we were experiencing that same theme because the angels really permeate everything. It's like the umbrella.
Yeah. So we've got these 4 primary sets of virtues: swords, wands, hearts, and diamonds. And the heart or essence of each of those virtues is represented by the angel of that virtue. The Angel of Wands is expressing the wand essence. Did you say what it was already?
I didn't.
Is it okay to say that
Yeah.
now? It's expressing the wand essence of power. When we move into this virtue of wands, we're accessing power.
Yeah.
And a part of what we learned last year through the 44 was that our way of expressing or activating personal power is through taking action, which makes really good sense because of the 4 sets of virtues: swords, wands, hearts, and diamonds. Wands are the most active.
Right.
And this is a tangible activity. This isn't a mental activity like we meet in the swords. This is something we live out.
Yeah.
A lot of the day signature contemplations we recorded had us kind of harping on this theme of taking action in real ways.
Yeah, so our keynotes for the wands are the word vigor and expression. And they definitely evoke a very active and like you're participating in life at this point.
Here it is.
And it's also represented by the element of fire.
Yeah, great. So there's this dynamism, almost an explosive way of encountering or engaging with your own life. We like this idea of contact with life equating to explosion because when you think in terms of infinity, and you think in terms of contacting that infinity, and you think in terms of contacting that infinity on purpose, consciously, that's even the idea is explosive. Anything could happen. Mm-hmm. And we want to bring that into our real life in real ways because it expands our agency, or our agency can't be expanded. It's already complete. It expands our recognition of that complete agency in very practical ways. We speak in terms of themes, and we use metaphor, and we have all these beautiful words that we use in these conversations. But over and over again, we wish to remind you that our intent is ultimately to walk away with something practical, something we can leave this video and live.
Right.
Amazingly, the prime instinct of 2024 was to live. Mm-hmm. It was the prime instinct to live. Love that. So we were working with the wand essence of power, and we were learning how to live that. Discovering these themes last year, it prepares us, it equips us to meet the themes we're going to uncover this year. Mm-hmm. We're going to do our best to share with you what we are seeing in that today. But whatever we can see now on day one is small in comparison to everything we will be shown over the next year. Mm-hmm. We speak in terms of a year, in human terms of a year, and we think of 365 days. Recently, we've introduced a brand new resource that we call the Light Year Ledger. Mm-hmm. We named it this because our year of 2024 was so explosive, so miraculous, so different from any year before that it genuinely feels as though we lived lifetimes in that short span of time. For us, it wasn't 365 days at all, not even close. It was almost like every day we woke up and lived out this just brilliant story. And by the time we were in bed at night, we were day after day in bed at night, we're going, that was today? Mm-hmm. That happened this morning? You could hardly remember because so much had happened. So we think poetically in terms of light years. Mm-hmm. We're not living out a basic year. We're living out eternal moments, moment by moment by moment, day by day, by week, by month, by year. So when we speak in terms of this year and its frequency, we're looking at a great length of not even time so much as opportunity.
Definitely, yes.
It's a great span of opportunity. Mm-hmm. We're going to see so much more than we can share, but we're excited to share as much as we can see. Mm-hmm. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. So we've mentioned that last year, since this is kind of the beginning point, recapping the year prior.
Yeah.
Last year was the frequency of 44, mm-hmm. the Angel of Wands, the wand essence of power, and the prime instinct to live. It was represented by the angels of partnership and elegance. Mm-hmm. Would you like to share what the angel details are?
Yes. So the 44th angel of partnership walks the pathway of recognition to become the embodiment of merging. And then the 22nd angel of elegance walks the pathway of poise to become the embodiment of grace.
Yeah, that's right.
Double master numbers, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And it definitely lends to the significance of last year, what it was really just the opportunity that it was, and how it's basically setting this foundation for everything that we're going to experience this year as well.
Mm-hmm. What we're sensing and what we've been sensing in the lead up to this day, this new year, this conversation, sometimes it can be really challenging to lay hold of that and then communicate it in words. I feel like there's this soup of discoveries that we've just been swimming in, mm-hmm. and finding the words to describe it may be a unique challenge. We've taken a lot of notes. Just bear with us. I don't even know exactly where to begin as we recap 2024.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to just share our, if we had a mantra, if we had a short summary of what last year was and what this opportunity is this year, they're the same almost. Mm-hmm. And we'll talk about how this mantra applies to both years, but I think it's kind of a really perfect opener to begin. And so the mantra is this: I see the gift and I accept it. Hmm. It's all about becoming aware of the gift that life is and taking ownership of the gift, consciously participating in the gift.
It's awesome. I see the gift, one, and I accept it, two. It's in two pieces.
Right.
First of all, I love how simple that is. Second of all, I love that it's two pieces. And third of all, I love that they're sequential, they dovetail. The one depends upon the other.
Right.
You can't accept a gift you haven't recognized as a gift.
Right.
But the moment you recognize the gift, you now have the option to accept it, to receive it, to celebrate it, to enjoy it. So what we're seeing is that 2024 was very much in the energy of, wow, a gift. It was in the energy of becoming aware, which is, of course, what we also saw in the 44th angel, who walks the pathway of recognition. This is about recognizing the gift. In this case, the gift is your life. The gift is existence. The gift is everything that your unique expression of that life contains and wishes to express. It's you. You're the gift. The fact that you exist, the fact that I exist, the fact that Laura exists. Another example would be, for us, it would be one another. Laura is a gift to me. I am a gift to Laura. And we have lived out a beautiful year of coming to recognize just how deep, how rich, how beautiful that gift really is. So I see the gift as about becoming aware, recognizing the gift as such. The second half, I choose to accept it. This is about claiming the gift as your own. It's about saying yes.
Yeah, it's totally tied to the essence of power. Claiming your personal power as something that you have entire free will to, exercise or not.
Yes. Yes. How do we enact that power that we met last year in the 44? We enact it through taking ownership or laying claim to that which is entirely our own. That's what we meet here in 2025 in the frequency of the 45 and the 45th angel of nobility, who walks the pathway of ownership. So I see the gift last year and I accept it this year. That dovetailing of year themes in a single statement, remarkable, magical. As Laura was taking her notes in preparation for this conversation, she wrote that in parentheses as a primary summary that we were excited to share. And I asked her where it came from. And she didn't know. It just came from somewhere in her brain. and I asked if it came from a particular frequency that we had been working with this morning. And she said no. And so I encouraged her to look it up on our words table to see if it's on our list, because it certainly looks and feels to me like something that would be.
Yeah.
So would you like to share what you found when you looked it up?
So I typed into the words table on our website. It's a free database where you can search any frequency. So type in any number, any word, any phrase, and see what it produces. So I typed into our words table, I see the gift, and it is connected to the frequency 110. And then I remembered that last year, 110 was my personal light year for 2024.
Yes.
So I had definitely been familiar, seen that phrase before. And yeah, so that was the connection.
It was in your awareness, but the reason it was in your awareness, that's the magical part, because when she wrote it, she didn't remember where it came from.
Right.
But where it came from was her personal light year frequency, which is what we share in the light year ledger. When you purchase the light year ledger, you receive your light year, your personal light year frequency too, which correlates your personal signature, your unique signature to the themes of that year.
Right.
So you get to not only understand what we're going to lay out for you today, but understand how all of this pertains to you as an individual based on your full name.
Right. So the 44, the 45, these are general collective year signatures, but we can also discover our personal
relationship to that.
Yes, our personal relationship to that general theme by understanding what our personal light year frequency is.
Yeah.
So that's what the 110 was for me last year.
Yeah.
And this year it's actually 111, which is pretty cool.
It just so
an
happened.
amazing tool.
Oh, it is an amazing tool. We're very excited about it. It's actually difficult not to just launch into everything we're excited about it right now. but we do, we have so much else to share that we'll attempt to stay focused. The point I'm attempting to make here, of course, is that, not only did this come from something Laura was familiar with, but it actually came from her very personal relationship to last year's theme. And she didn't even know when she wrote it down. So there's that sort of small miracle that tends to play out when you're on this path of really taking ownership of what is yours. That had already integrated, become such a part of you so completely that you didn't need to remember which piece of the puzzle contributed that initial finding. It was just there, ready and waiting to be accepted, to be claimed, and now to guide you into this coming year.
Right.
To guide all of us into the coming year, because we sense this as a really powerful overarching summary on a collective level, not just a personal one.
Yes.
So 2024 was about recognizing, it was really about recognizing that each of us is kind of dropped onto this stage as a complete conscious presence capable of encountering life experience as a gift, as a surprise generator, as a generator of perpetual surprise, as a generator of miracles, as a generator of support and abundance and wonder. What we learned, however, is that the ability to recognize this gift is entirely up to each of us. We first need to be willing to become aware of it as such. And then, as a second step to that, we need to be capable of and willing to receive it as our own, to receive that gift.
Yeah.
We were speaking earlier about an example, our relationship, our love. It could have been true for a very long time that Laura was in love with Timothy. But if I had no awareness of this, I'm going to move through life in a particular way as a result of not knowing that. The moment I become aware of that, I have a range of options available to me that I did not know about prior to that moment. Becoming aware of the fact that Laura loved me was a powerful turning point because I also loved her. And so now I had the option in this example to give love back to the one who loved me or not. If I became aware of her love for me and even aware of my own love for her, but never took action on that, we would not be sitting here today.
Yeah.
Each one of us had a part to play in that. So each one of us had to become aware of what was true within us. I didn't even mention how you needed to become aware of the fact that you loved me. We each needed to become aware of our part of this growing contextual reality.
Yeah.
And then make new decisions based upon that awareness. If we hadn't taken action on that awareness, we would not be here now, but we did, and so we are. This is just an example of what plays out for us every single day of our lives in every possible direction and dimension of our experience all at once.
Right. Whatever circumstance you find yourself in the moment, there is an opportunity there for you to see the gift and to accept it.
Boom.
That is can be a monumental ask of us a lot of the time.
Yeah.
For us to really open our eyes, push ourselves, expand ourselves to be able to perceive that something that we might at first glance decide we want no part of, we do not see the gift, we do not accept the gift. It can be that way, but all of last year was this amazing opportunity for us to see the gift no matter what the circumstance was, because it's always there hiding as like this jewel in the ground that we just have to dig to find. It's all there. And so it's just a really cool, almost like rite of passage to be able to have said, we traversed 2024 and we did that.
Yeah.
All of the opportunities that we had, and we really took the moment to pause and choose to become aware, see the gift, and accept it. We can pat ourselves on the back for like any time when we did that. And I know that we've all had those moments, even if it was really small. That understanding is what is going to carry us into this next year, because in this next year, it's leveling up to the point where we get to now what you were explaining, taking action on that, on that knowledge, on that awareness.
And think about that. Imagine, even if only hypothetically, that all of last year, and I mean, realistically, your entire life leading up to this
Yes.
very point was laying groundwork, was setting a stage for a part that you now get to play. You know, we're past the point of practice. You've been rehearsing your lines into the mirror for long enough.
Yeah.
Now it's time to step out on stage and deliver your lines. This is a very different quality of experience, a different sort of year that we've just opened up to, and we feel that even as I'm describing it. I've not used these words before. I feel the chills of awareness, like, okay, yes, we've been fortified, we've been equipped, we are ready to go. Not just us, you, all of us. We are ready to meet life and meet it as a benefit. That changes everything. Learning how to live, that changes everything. I was struck earlier by this awareness that each of us meets every moment from one or another beginning point. And there's a gradient, but ultimately on this gradient, the two ends of the spectrum are pretty clear. You've heard us talk about this before. You've got wonder on the one end and worry on the other. If your beginning point is wonder, you're going to perceive of life in a certain way. If your beginning point is worry, you're going to perceive of life in a very different way. Your beginning point is going to affect, even predict, your interpretation of events.
Right.
You mentioned something about circumstance. It's almost as if the circumstance itself doesn't matter. That's not the right way to say it, though. It's more that the circumstance itself is innocent. It's neutral.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's the great thing about awareness is that we can perceive of both worry and wonder at the same time
And choose. Yeah.
It's like that's the
wild.
equation.
That's
it's
power.
Perceiving and then choosing.
Yeah, it's the power to choose.
It's our power.
And the wand power, really what we're choosing to embody, the essence of what we're choosing to embody is the ability to take action. It's one thing to choose, okay, I won't worry about this. I will trust that something beautiful is happening, even if I can't see the end from the start. But then to act on that awareness, to act as if all is well, that can be very difficult in real life. The practical takeaway here is actually a very distinct practice that requires a great deal of awareness and courage and creativity and willingness to trust that life is good, that what happens in your life happens for you. I had this idea of a stranger coming up and giving me $100. There are two versions of Timothy that could meet that moment, two primary versions. One of them could perceive of this through pessimistic eyes, through worry or fear-based eyes. And that person would say, what's the catch? There's another version of me that whose eyes would light up, seeing that $100 from a complete stranger, and who would happily receive that as a gift, as a grace, as an unexpected surprise, as a miracle. Wow. You're either saying, I don't trust this, or you're saying, wow. And the difference between those two in terms of the quality of our individual experience is drastic. It makes all the difference in the world. Someone giving another person $100 is just someone giving another person $100. What it means to the person giving the $100 is one thing. What it means to the person receiving it is another. The fact of the matter is, life is constantly moving, constantly flowing, and you are a direct recipient of that every single moment of every single day. There's no getting away from that. So you are on the end of the recipient always. Life is constantly giving you $100 bills, and you're either saying, hey, what's the catch? Or you're saying, thank you.
Right. Yeah, it's true. The circumstance at face value is never the whole story.
Yeah.
So we constantly have to be asking ourselves from a perspective of the universe is absolutely
Yes.
Trying to deliver my desires to me, having that understanding that you are supported, not only just supported, but helped to have your heaven delivered to you.
Yeah.
From that perspective, we can understand that no matter how the circumstance looks, we can look beneath the surface and say, how is this a gift? How is this calling me forward to step up into that greater version of life that I envision for myself? how would the king or the queen in me respond in this moment,
Yes.
knowing that that's already true, that I just have to like walk the path in order for it to unfold, that everything will work out in my favor. It's very much like if we're taking a step forward without knowing that there's going to be a ground underneath our feet. But we take that step knowing that the ground will appear.
Yeah. Another word for beginning point is assumption.
Mm-hmm.
We're always going to assume based on fear, or we're going to assume based on celebration. What you're referring to here is a scene from one of the Indiana Jones movies that we like to refer to. I don't even know if we have in any of these signature conversations. It's a perfect opportunity. There's this one scene where Indiana Jones is standing at the edge of a cliff, and there's this large chasm between him and the other side.
Yeah.
And it appears that he's out of luck. And of course, as usual, he's being chased. What he somehow miraculously discovers is that there's this hidden walkway connecting where he is to the other side, but it's practically invisible, and he doesn't know it's there until he does the impossible. It really, even in the movie, it's like, who would even try? Mm-hmm. He takes a step into the darkness and finds a footfall. Mm-hmm. It's invisible, but it's there.
Yeah.
That initial step seems totally impossible. However, the fact of the matter is, once you've taken 2 or 3, you get the idea. Oh, there's a walkway here.
Yes.
I can't see it, but it's here.
Right.
So what begins as fear ends as celebration. Mm-hmm. But it's up to us to take that first step. And if we never do, we remain captive on the edge of a cliff, mm-hmm. feeling victimized by the gap.
Right.
When in fact, we're never, ever held apart from what it is we truly desire. We hold ourselves apart through misunderstanding. Mm-hmm. Through a lack of awareness. Because again, that awareness...
a lack of trust that the system is set in our favor.
This is the assumption.
For us to succeed.
That's right.
No matter what. It's just the initial step is always the hardest. Because as we know, the more we open ourselves up to taking that step and we practice a couple times and we start to get several experiences under our belt where, hey, everything did work out and it's actually better than I even expected. And, oh, it's actually up to me because I have free will to take that first step.
Yeah.
It starts to become so much easier than those initial steps.
Absolutely.
It's like the momentum starts to move and it becomes effortless.
Absolutely.
After a time.
Yep. We've practiced standing at the cliff edge, assuming that we're stuck. And as we practice something different, we become aware of the alternative to that. Really what we're dealing with is an underlying assumption that life is hostile mm-hmm. versus an underlying assumption that life is good.
Right.
It's that simple. Mm-hmm. Even for those who are going to try and get smart and say, well, I don't believe life is hostile. I just believe it's random. You can't trust something that's random. Right. You would not make an appointment with someone that you knew might or might not show up. Probably wouldn't, because it's random. You can't be in a relationship. You certainly cannot merge with anything that is random or chaotic or
that you don't
lacks dependability.
Right.
We gain trust through learning that we can depend upon something. Life must be dependable, or frankly, by now, it would have ceased to exist.
Yeah, the perfect example of marriage. You're not going to marry somebody you don't trust.
Boom.
And that's what last year was all about, merging with life.
Yep. And that's not possible until you recognize that life is only good. If life, we talked about this in another videos at some point, if life is 99.9% trustworthy, you cannot merge with it. Right. If there is even an ounce of worry or concern that it cannot be trusted, the option of merging, of marriage, of complete merging is off the table. You can only actually merge with something you holistically trust. So life must be all and only good or not.
Yes.
It's binary in this regard. And this is a part of what 2024 was teaching us. There are no halfway measures here. You don't get to have one foot in the door and one foot out. Right. You're all in or you are not in.
Yeah.
And That's the same with the stage we're talking about. If you've been practicing and preparing and equipped to land on stage, there is no way that stating your lines in front of the mirror will ever equate to getting out on that stage in front of the audience and performing your part. Each of us is called to contribute what we've been called to contribute. Another way of saying that is, I'm here to be a Timothy, Lara's here to be a Lara, and you are here to be a you. But none of that gets to play out until we begin from a new point, until we claim a more empowered assumption.
Yeah.
So that's why the 44th angel of partnership walks the pathway of recognition. What it was trying to tell us, what it is trying to remind us of, is the fact that we're not only in partner with one another, each one of us is individually in partnership with life, and that there is no possibility of receiving the richness that life is constantly inviting us into until we first choose to trust that life is good, that it's not out to get us. Quite the opposite. It's out to benefit us, and we're the ones getting in our own way. That's a tough lesson to learn when you're standing at the edge of a cliff that everyone you know has told you for as long as you can remember that if you take one single step, you're going to fall and die. 2024 was about easing us off the ledge.
Yes. And everything that happened to us in 2024, every circumstance was a grace.
Yeah.
Which is the 22nd Angel of Eloquence. We can't move through life with poise and elegance if everything's out to get us and we're taking these trepidatious steps. And that is what we came to understand and came to embody last year. And moving forward, we're giving even more opportunities. Double down.
I like that. Wait, is that a match?
That's a match.
To what?
45.
All right, so that's awesome. So one of the things we're being called to do this year is double down.
Yeah.
Last year, it was like you're standing on the edge of the cliff and you're getting pushed. And every time you get pushed, because of all of these agreements you've made, all of these ideas that you've been spoon-fed, you're going, why? Stop. You're scared because someone's trying to push you off the cliff to your death. In fact, life knows that everything you want is on the other side of this chasm. You know that everything you want is on the other side of this chasm. You're unwilling to move. And life is like, don't worry.
Yeah.
There's a clear walkway. You can't see it, but there's no possibility of falling. You can just walk straight across. It sounds crazy, except it's true.
Yeah.
And so this year, whether 2024 brought us to that point where we could take that first step or not, this year we're all being called to take that step. And what's interesting about this is all of the awareness gained last year means nothing until employed. So if you spent all last year on the edge of the cliff convincing yourself mentally that it's okay to take a step, Timothy and Lara and the angels are always saying this, and I think I believe it, that does make sense, and you're gathering all of this awareness. If you remain static on the edge of the cliff in your life, you will not access the richness available to you along the way and waiting on the other side. So this is about taking ownership of your part, which is to take the step, to start moving toward that which you desire, understanding that every desire contains within it the essence of a promise. It's showing you what is yours. That's why you desire it. That's really something to wrap our heads around. We now become responsible for claiming the kingdom that awaits.
Yes.
That's what the 45 is about.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So there's what happens, and then there's what you believe about what happens. That $100 bill, the taking of the step. The reality is in place. And the reality is life is good and is only out to benefit you. The little pushing that you were feeling off that ledge, you're not going to fall off the ledge. You're being pushed toward what you've asked for. So everything that happens is good. What this leads us to is a willingness to say thank you, period.
Yes.
I see the gift and I accept it. Something horrible happens. I see the gift and I choose to accept it. I may not understand yet how this contributes, how this benefits, exactly why this is a gift. But I know, because of everything I've learned, because of the awareness that I've come to, I know this must lead to a beautiful end. And in choosing to trust that, I'm now going to be accelerated along the path of arriving at that end. I'm going to get to experience it in real life, not as an idea, because I'm going to choose to trust, and I will take action on that trust. This is a really, really powerful way of being. It's the very way of being that in the Bible story about Peter and Jesus on this stormy sea had Peter walking on the water, just like Jesus. I love that story. He's so excited to see, in this Bible story, Peter is so excited to see Jesus walking on water amidst a crazy storm that they just minutes ago thought was going to capsize the ship, that he jumps out of the boat and starts walking on the water toward Jesus, because no part of him had yet computed, hey, that's not possible. He was just so filled with awareness and excitement that he hopped out and started walking, and halfway there he starts looking around and thinking, what am I doing? I'm walking on water and it's a storm. I'm going to drown. I'm going to die. And he starts to sink. You know, this is exactly what we do as well. First of all, if you're a Peter and you've jumped out of the ship and you started to walk, understand that you are a very powerful, very special version of a being. Like, that takes something really courageous that most people are not embodying. But I can imagine how a lot of people viewing our videos, a lot of the people these videos would like show up for, are like that. They've found themselves in the midst of the storm, walking on water, wondering, wait a second, is this okay? Like, is this allowed?
Absolutely.
Yes, the answer is yes.
We all have our version of that.
Absolutely.
I know we do.
Oh,
especially at this point, it's like we trust everything that is happening.
Yes.
Because
we're learning to.
We're learning to say
thank you. Sometimes it takes a few minutes or hours or some conversation. Often it takes workshopping.
Oh yeah, this is the thing. Be willing to engage in a dialogue.
Yeah.
Not only with those around you, but with life, with the circumstances. Interact with it in a way that is trusting.
Yeah.
And it will respond back with
a reason to trust.
A reason to trust. Evidence that you can trust.
Yeah, that's right.
And you relax.
Yes.
And you grow more from that.
I mean, when you get that evidence in the midst of the storm, because of your conscious choice to trust, not only do you relax, you explode open. It's not just like, oh, thank goodness. It's like, oh my gosh, like it blows your mind because you've witnessed a miracle. What you've actually witnessed is nature. What you've actually witnessed is the most natural thing in the world, because this is how life works. But we experience it as a miracle, and thank goodness that we do. I love that part of the play. I love that the stage has been set in such a way that as we return to our nature, as we return to an understanding of how life works, as we return to the basic sustenance that we are like held by, we receive it as a surprise. We receive it as a miracle. We get to be mind blown and heart exploded open by it. That's also a grace. That's also built into the play. That's a part of what makes it an interesting story.
Yeah. Otherwise, why are we here?
Yeah.
Like, we're here to experience the exhilaration.
Yeah, there it is. Yep. You said it was one of the first things you said yesterday, New Year's Eve, that you felt exhilarated. I loved that. It was a great word. But this is it. We're learning to live a larger story.
Yep.
And our ability to live that larger story is fully dependent upon our willingness to take ownership of our relationship to the story. We're the ones defining the qualitative nature of that story. Whatever happens is what happens. But what we make of it is up to us. You're either going to assume that life is hostile and something is out to get you and everything's going to go awry, or you're going to assume the opposite of that. And the difference makes all the difference in the world. So that's a part of what we're dealing with here. The wand virtue of story.
Right.
And what does this lead us to? If you connect these dots, we come to recognize that life is good and only good, that every single circumstance is a grace, that everything that happens for us, and that our life only grows. Our awareness grows, our flexibility grows, our freedom and our power and our courage and our strength and our abundance, all of it grows. As we're connecting all of these dots, what happens? We start to tell a better story. When we're telling the better story, we're able to act on that in new ways. So we start to live out a better story. If all of these pieces are in place and there is no possibility of falling into the chasm and falling to your death in this chasm, then you now have complete flexibility as a creative being. We have a word for that in human terms. It's play.
Yeah.
It's the prime instinct to play. This is what children do.
Mm-hmm.
They do not show up filled with fear. They show up filled with creativity and passion and joy, and so they play.
Mm-hmm.
They're not worried that if they run too fast, they might fall and scrape a knee.
No.
They just run.
Yeah.
They run straight into walls.
They're always curious and experimenting and testing and, you know, like, what's this? Poking at it. Just.
And there's that strange phenomenon. It always cracks me up when a small child like falls or something or bumps its head.
Yeah.
And you can tell they're stunned for a minute. You can see it in the moment. If there's no adult interaction, that child goes right back to playing.
Mm-hmm.
But the minute an adult comes over and starts fussing, oh no, the child starts crying.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's afraid. Now it thinks, oh, I'm supposed to be in pain.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like
yeah.
We're trained into this corner of inflexibility, into this corner of disempowerment. It's no one's fault.
Mm-hmm.
It's a part of how the stage has been set, so that when we discover that there is no such thing as disempowerment, there is no such thing as being trapped, that we are each responsible for ourselves and capable of complete liberation by simple virtue of what we think.
Mm-hmm.
That is the single greatest surprise, the single greatest miracle we could ever encounter, and that's why the stage has been set this way. The odds are stacked in our favor so that we will receive a tremendous gift.
Wow.
If not for all of that, it wouldn't feel like much of a gift at all. Like, how often throughout the day do you think, oh, thank you for this gift of breathing?
Right.
Oh, thank you for this gift of eyesight.
Mm-hmm.
It's so much a part of you. You don't think of it as a gift, although in fact it is.
Yes.
Those things, eyesight is a great example of that for me. I grew up with bad eyesight. After I got LASIK and ended up with better than perfect vision, believe me when I tell you that I'm thankful for my eyesight. I get to be thankful in a way that others aren't because of the lead up to LASIK, because of the lead up to that perfection or that experience of the perfection of eyesight that I now have. So this is all of what this year is opening into. It's the Angel of Nobility.
Mm-hmm.
It's clear as day what we're being invited into. We're being invited into the kingdom.
Right.
It's always been there. Last year we were reminded of it, or we became aware of it.
Mm-hmm.
This year we stepped through the front gate.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting to think of the embodiment of the king in the sense that, what is a king? He's born into this role.
Yeah.
What we're understanding is that we were each born into this kingdom as a king or a queen. We each are our version of that.
Of that nobility.
And we're coming to understand that we are that. And then second, to act like it.
To act like it. So good.
It's just those two simple things.
Yes.
But we have to choose to be the king. We have to choose to be the queen.
It is alarmingly simple in that regard.
Yeah.
But what you said is the clincher.
Right.
Act like it. We get to act like it.
Mm-hmm.
You absolutely will act differently if you think life is out to get you than you will act if you believe and know wholeheartedly that life only benefits.
Right. That you already have the role of being the king or the queen, that you already have the kingdom. It's when you understand that it's already there, you just have to, walk the path and live the story.
Yeah.
Then it's a whole different shift in perspective, a whole different shift in mindset that can only come about with this dawning awareness of that fact.
Yeah, I'm just realizing that a perfect metaphor of this is once again Lord of the Rings. I always think of Aragorn. Mm-hmm. At the beginning of the 3 movies, right? The initial 3 movies, you meet Strider. He's not even going by his own name. He's going by a name he was given. He's a literal shadow dressed all in black. You don't even know he's there, and he prefers it that way. He knows he was born a king. At this point in the story, he's been around for a while. He already knows he was born a king, but he wants nothing to do with it. And so he pretends invisibility, and he becomes Strider. Mm-hmm. So he washes his true identity away. And over the course of the 3 movies, you witness this progressive reclamation of self. That reclamation of his self obviously includes kinghood. He didn't have to claim being the king. He was never not the king. He was always the king, but he was acting like a shadow, like a ghost at first. And by the end of the movie, you go from Strider all in black in the corners to Aragorn, the king. And the name of the last movie is literally Return of the King. Yeah. And he's dressed all in white. And he's beaming and he's taken ownership of his throne. And the whole sequence that led him to this point was equipping him to be the best king. That is our life in a nutshell. My life, Laura's life, your life, all of our lives in a nutshell. It's so perfect. We think we need to be invisible, even as we feel sick to our stomachs over it. How come I'm so invisible? Because it's too dangerous to be visible. Because if I allow this larger story to be true, I might be wrong. I might fall into that chasm and die. And we're learning, of course, that none of that was ever true. You can't not be the king. You can act like you're not. Yeah. But the moment you recognize the truth, you recognize how free of risk it actually is to claim that truth, you begin to stand up and walk in those shoes. You literally move differently through life. You begin to embody last year's themes of grace. What was the other one? Grace and...
Poise and elegance.
Yeah, grace, poise, elegance.
I think what we again, are afraid of because we don't know, it's like fear of the unknown, fear of taking that step on the invisible bridge, is that we think it's going to be hard. We think we have to muster all of this effort to be the king or the queen. But when we do take that step and understand that we are taking ownership of something, only we can do it. Yeah. And we claim it and accept it, we come to find out that it's effortless.
It's natural.
Easy. It's so inherent to who we truly are.
There it is.
To be who we want to be, to live that story that is only our story.
Yes. Somehow mixed into all of this, we keep sensing the 10th angel of authenticity. It's about being yourself. That angel of authenticity is all about expressing your nature, and it embodies being itself. That's all. The alarming simplicity of this is exactly what we find in the 23rd angel, which is one of the two angels representative of this coming year. This is the Angel of Eloquence, who walks the pathway of simplicity to become the embodiment of heart. I promise you, at the edge of that cliff, there's no opportunity for heart to express because everything is clutched in fear. Your heart's about this big and buried because it's just too dangerous for that light to shine. But as we open and as we allow life to begin to move, and as we allow life to begin to move us, everything softens, everything opens. Yes, we're relaxed, but we're not just relaxed. We're marveling at the perpetual nature of surprise, at the miracle, this carpet of light, as I don't remember if it was angels or stones that used that phrase.
Star topaz.
Yeah, okay, perfect. At this carpet of light laid out before us as we enact our own true nature in real life ways. This is absolutely what we expect this year to be about. 2025 is about standing up and taking those steps. Take action. Yet last year, become aware. This year, take action. Last year, I see the gift. Wow, that's a massive step in and of itself. This year, I accept it. This year, I choose to do something with it. It's your birthright.
Yeah. When we think about somebody who's eloquent, we think of somebody who makes the gift of speech look easy. It just flows out of them. They're so beautifully eloquent.
Yeah.
And what we come to realize is that this eloquence is actually descriptive of the act of us being ourselves and living from the heart and allowing our heart to be open. So just living open-hearted and, again, taking ownership.
Yeah. It occurs to me now, as you're speaking, in fact, that this embodiment of heart is not just the expression of your own heart, because it's actually not the expression of heart, it's the embodiment of heart. So what does that mean? It means that we're actually embodiments of life's heart. We are living embodiments of the heart of life itself. The vitality, the creativity, the genius, the wonderment that we get to experience in real ways as living, conscious, sentient beings, that is a direct embodiment of what lives at the heart of life itself. That's what this angel is showing us. So, of course, eloquence is tied into that. And, of course, this will be expressed in the simplest possible terms. Our options are never as complicated as we believe them to be. Fear complicates and squeezes.
Yes.
Celebration could not be more simple. As we learn to just say thank you to everything that happens, understanding absolutely that no matter what the nature of that occurrence may be, it's lending to our benefit. Life becomes very simple. What is the option? There is no option but to celebrate. That's the option. So all of this leads us to our greatest discovery, I think, of the connection between last year and this year. And this is the one that I'm most hopeful to be able to communicate.
Okay.
But it's one we were talking about earlier that you discovered for us. Are we going to be able to track back to that and put words to it? Do you remember what I'm referring to?
No.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, we were doing our little nap. And you were like in one of your moments of clarity and you were sharing what you were sharing. Do you remember?
No.
Oh man, I really want your words for it. Okay, it was on the subject of this idea of selfishness.
Yes. Okay,
right.
Yes.
Okay, so interestingly, the 44 of last year reduces to an 8. 8 in the Liberated Tarot is symbiosis.
Right.
And we see this image of symbiosis in the number 8 itself.
Right.
This feedback loop of interaction that is infinite and never ends. Nature itself is symbiotic in nature, and it establishes an equilibrium which sustains for all time without loss of energy. There's no loss in the system, there's no risk, because everything is in perfect equilibrium by virtue of its symbiotic nature.
Yes, it's the loop of giving and receiving, supporting somebody else, or offering support and being supported.
Correct. Inhalation, exhalation, these basic mechanisms, these tidal patterns, these flows that we meet in nature, they play out in our lives too. And they're directly expressive of how life itself, capital L, life itself moves. So one of the great takeaways for us was this realization that we are not responsible for protecting ourselves. We think that we need to self-protect, set up boundaries, be selfish enough to take care of ourselves because we're under the assumption that if we don't, no one will.
Right. What we most desire, we think we have to be the ones that carry that out, that execute the plan, when the truth is that your desires are always being delivered to you step by step. You're given opportunities to claim more and more and more of that life that you want. And so we have to realize that every circumstance around us gives us an opportunity to step higher into that role, higher, called to higher life.
Yes.
And so that's where this feeling of selfishness, or this basically this idea that we have to control everything around us. And the fact of the matter is that our selfishness is actually natural, but we're trying to control and make things happen. Where the universe is just going to give it to us. So that's the great paradox, is that the more we feel like we're being selfish, it's just the fear. And what we're really wanting is to live so openly that there's no thought of selfishness whatsoever that crosses our mind. We just give so selflessly. We're just constantly giving and we're constantly receiving. It will never enter the equation.
Yeah. It's almost as if the word selfish itself isn't even a part of the equation.
Right.
It's not that we are naturally selfish. It's that in a self-fulfilling system that we're a part of, we are naturally fulfilled. What we really want is not to be selfish. What we really want is not even just to survive or just to be safe and taken care of. What we really want is to be fulfilled. That's what we want. And what we're learning, what last year taught us, is that life is in and of itself perfectly capable, perfectly emphasized, highlighted, underlined, circled, italicized, a perfectly capable system of self-fulfillment, and we are a part of that. So how do you access fulfillment in a perfectly self-fulfilling system? It's not by begging for scraps. It's not by making things happen. It's not through effort. It's through release of effort. It's literally in the opposite direction. You receive fulfillment through contributing to a self-fulfilling system by playing your part. If Alara can just be Alara and a Timothy can just be a Timothy, then both Lara and Timothy get everything they need, even as they give the system, so to speak, as they contribute to life, everything it needs to give them what they need. Mm-hmm. So in our relationship, this is a formula that we've been, to the very best of our ability, living in, building up on as a foundation. And the formula is that Lara's pleasure is my pleasure. Like, if she's happy, I'm happy. And if I'm happy, she's happy. And this loop builds in. If I can devote myself to her, I'm going to experience the fulfillment that I desire. It's not through becoming petty and small and jealous and worried that I'm going to make sure that I manipulate things in such a way that I get everything I need, because how else am I going to get it? Mm-hmm. It's about surrendering all of those concerns all together and giving my whole heart, my whole self, as completely as I possibly can into this system of love that we've generated between us, trusting and knowing that that simple act is the very thing that ignites something in her that says, hey, it's safe to do the same. And then she gives herself to me, and I give myself to her, and I get everything I could ever possibly want. How? By manipulating the system? No, by surrendering to it. Mm-hmm. This, of course, is a major takeaway for us. 2024 was our first year of marriage. We're learning what it means to actually be partners, real life partners in real life ways. Mm-hmm. What is marriage? We're learning what that merging actually looks like in a practical way. But it's not just about our relationship. It's about our individual relationships to life itself. The fact of the matter is, if I, as an individual, can kind of reconnect to that same story with life myself, and if Lara herself can reconnect to that same story with life, then the love that we're sharing between us will have a much, much larger field to play in. So we're responsible for all of us are responsible for our own ideas about life. We're responsible about returning ourselves to this mechanism of support, this self-fulfilling mechanism, so that we can be fulfilled. And the only way to do it is to constantly, as my mantra says this year, pour gold from our hearts into life. That's the only way. Give of yourself. Contribute your whole self to life as completely as you possibly can, and life will give you everything you could possibly imagine and more. That's how this works. That's what we're learning. In addition to everything else we've already described, this is one of the major, major takeaways. But it's connected to the original mantra. Mm-hmm. I see the gift, and I choose to accept it. The accepting part, the saying thank you part, the celebrating part, that's your contribution. Mm-hmm. It couldn't be more simple. It couldn't be more beautiful. It couldn't be more exciting. It couldn't be more fulfilling. Yeah. We're not called to some great complicated effort here. Mm-hmm. We're called to recognize that life happens for us and to say thank you when it does, no matter how it looks at first, no matter what our practiced mind might say about it. Our trained mind, what we're doing now, is the one that says, I know that life is good. I know that Lara loves me, whatever this scenario or the context may be. And we plug ourselves into that story. Right. And then we live up into that story. Right. And life says, ding, 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 you did it.
Yes. Yeah. So good.
Yeah, it's amazing. I'm very excited about this year.
It's, again, this pathway of simplicity is perfect because it is simple. You just imagine the best fairy tale that you can conceive and plug yourself into the role of the king.
Yes.
And act like the king would in any given scenario.
Yep.
If you don't get it right, the first time, you have all of this opportunity for the universe, is because it's going to give you more and more opportunities to see what you needed to see in that moment.
Yes.
And that's it. It's really beautiful and exciting because we get to do something this year. We actually get to do something.
And we tend to be so fixated on, but what am I supposed to do? Mm-hmm. We actually have an answer to that question this year.
Yes.
Would you like to share it? Do you remember the summary?
No.
Lara invents all of these amazing mantras and summaries. She has all the answers leading up to the conversation. It's a good thing we're a team because they deserve to be shared.
Yes.
The main takeaway, practical takeaway that we came up with for 2025 was to meet every moment with the question of, what is the noble act?
Yes.
If I am the noble, if this is the angel of nobility, if I am the king, if Lara is the queen, if this is a fairy tale, then what plays out next? When you feel squeezed and you feel worried, you press pause, you take a breath, and you ask, what is the noble act? What is the larger story? We are responsible for the stories we're telling, and the experience is defined by that story. Our relationship to that story is totally flexible. We have complete autonomy. We can tell any story about anything we want. If I give you $100, you can make anything of that you wish.
Mm-hmm. And
choose the highest.
Right. And if you find yourself not understanding what the noble act would be, if you're like, I don't know, what should I have done? Life will tell you. You'll find out if you are willing to know the answer, to learn the answer, and to you're being called up into that role, that higher life. So you have to actively choose it because you have free will.
Yeah.
So until you actually claim that that's what you want.
Right. All of this is assuming that you wish to reclaim your place in that kingdom.
But we're constantly being asked by life, is this what you want? Is this what you want? And you have to constantly say yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
Which is another 45.
Wow. Oh, yeah. Literally, yes, yes, yes in triplicate is a 45.
Mm-hmm. And another is affirm life. So that's what we're constantly doing, is affirming.
Yeah, that's right.
The life that we want.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was a really fun part about last year, is the prime instinct to live, not to surprise, to live.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were learning how to release the constraints and the worries that held us apart from truly living. And this year takes it one step further, because when you permit yourself finally to live and you've got nothing to fear, it becomes real simple, real innocent, real beautiful, real fast. And you're left doing what? Playing. Mm-hmm. Now the prime instinct evolves from living to playing, of all things. I mean, I just love that.
Yeah.
All this nobility and king, queen, and fairy tales. It's a game. It's fun. It's beautiful. It's you're on a stage. Like it's a literal play. That's I hadn't even thought of that. Yeah. I hadn't even thought of that.
That's cool.
So, what is the noble act? You mentioned what to do if we're unsure of the answer to that question. One thing you can always know is that the answer will be eloquent, simple, and it will affect your heart in a beautiful way. Mm-hmm. There's your 23rd angel.
Yeah. It will be heart opening.
Yep. And based on everything we've covered today, it seems very clear to me that the simplest possible answer to the question of what is the noble act will always be, say thank you. Mm-hmm. It's that prayer of amazement that the angels have taught us. Thank you, I love you. Thank you, I love you. Why? Because I know that no matter how I might perceive of this right now, everything happens to my benefit. What is another 45? Another match to the frequency of 45 is beneficent. Mm-hmm. Life is good.
Yeah.
It is literally only good. So, I mean, we show up to these conversations and say the same thing from different angles every time. And I don't see it ending.
No.
And this isn't even for you so much as for us, because every time we get to verbalize this, we integrate it further. It becomes a more real part of us. We are literally tricking our minds back into the truth because we've been so convinced of its opposite. This is how it happens. 2025 is going to expand us. It is going to require what of us? Action. Mm-hmm. It is going to require us to enact the power that is ours, the power to tell a different story, and the power to live that story out.
Yes.
If you don't know what to do, ask, what is the noble act? If you don't know the answer to that, learn to say thank you. Mm-hmm. Keep it as simple as it can possibly get. You have every reason to celebrate. Even if it doesn't feel like that, try it on for size and see what happens. You will be surprised if you can, when you do, because you will.
Yeah, I would say even that if you don't know what the noble act is, just exclaim to the sky, I'm willing to find the answer. I'm willing to know the answer.
I'm excited to be surprised.
Because, yes,
I'm
excited to be surprised. I'm excited to find out.
Yeah.
Because so many times we don't realize that we're subconsciously closing down and saying, I don't want to know the answer.
Yeah, out of fear.
Even if we're not saying it explicitly, that's what we're giving off.
Yeah. So we're going to learn not to do that. We're going to learn not to squeeze ourselves into those corners any longer, because the larger life awaits. Yeah. It's always been there. It's ours to claim. And the only thing holding us apart from it is our own misunderstanding. All we have to do is walk across the chasm. It's not a chasm at all. There's a clear path, and it's yours, and no one else can walk it. That's the beautiful thing and the challenging thing, and it's everything we're being shown this year. Last year equipped us to take those steps. This year we get to do it. What unfolds as a result, I'm getting like massive chills even as I begin the sentence. We can't begin to imagine. What unfolds as a result of finally taking those steps, we can't even begin to imagine. We could not have imagined one single detail of what played out for us in 2024.
I know.
So what comes next?
Yeah, exactly. Very exciting.
None of this existed. None of this existed this time last year. Mm-hmm. We were talking about even 6 months ago. The website wasn't even live.
Yep.
Everything happens very quickly when we permit life to flow. We do get to warp time. We do get to live in terms of light years, not just years.
Mm-hmm.
And the only ones who can enact that possibility are each one of us. We are the only ones who can act that possibility for ourselves.
In co-creation with the rest of life.
Correct. Yeah. We're just submitting ourselves to that self-fulfilling system so that finally, rather than begging and scraping for any little bit of artificial satisfaction we could possibly manage, we actually permit ourselves to be enraptured, permit ourselves to be swaddled in absolute fulfillment, the real thing.
Mm-hmm.
We do this by surrendering, by saying thank you, by giving ourselves away, not by holding ourselves back.
Mm.
That is a major lesson, quite a practice, and well worth the effort.
Yes. Wow.
Okay, so welcome to 2025.
Yeah.
We haven't even said it yet, but Happy New Year.
Yeah.
We're very excited about this new year. It's a new story. Oh, yes. Cheers, babe. Cheers. Thank you for joining us. This was a lot of fun. Our next video, if we're super lucky, and if everything goes according to plan, will be to discuss the month signature of this month, January of 2025. But for now, there's plenty here. We're excited to share it with you, and we'll do so as quickly as we can. And we'll be excited to hear from so many of you as the year progresses what it looks like.
Yeah.
Because we're all going to be finding out along the way, and it's going to be good. So, again, thank you for joining us. We'll see you again real soon.
Bye.
Goodbye for now.